Imagine this. One day, a scrawny kid who's supposed to be learning how to fight monsters suddenly finds himself face to face with something the whole world feared for generations, but instead of attacking, it just stares at you. You realize it might not be your enemy at all. Stay with me now. Welcome to Peak Plot Recaps. Today, I'm going to explain an action, adventure, and fantasy live-action film, How to Train Your Dragon. Directed by Dean Deb Lois, this movie perfectly blends action, adventure, comedy, drama, and fantasy, taking us into a world where Vikings and dragons are locked in an endless war. With an 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb rating, it somehow makes dragons feel real and oddly relatable. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe button. And now, spoilers ahead. The movie begins on the rugged, wind-battered island named Berk, surrounded by water and filled with nature. This island is home to the Vikings, where life is anything but peaceful. These Vikings have built their entire existence around one simple fact: dragons are the enemy, and they need to be destroyed. Every night, these massive winged beasts swoop down from the dark skies, stealing their sheep, setting their roofs on fire, and generally making everyone's life on Berk miserable. But the people of Berk, they don't run, they fight. These Vikings are built different. They tough as hell and twice as stubborn. The alarm bells ring across Berk as another dragon raid begins. Flames light up the dark sky like deadly fireworks, and the sound of roaring dragons fills the air. Every single person on Berk rushes out of their homes and charges into battle. Well, almost every single person. A teenager named Hiccup Horrendous Haddock III, yeah, that's actually his name. This 15-year-old kid is basically the polar opposite of everything a Viking should be. While everyone else is out there swinging massive hammers and axes, Hiccup is stuck on the sidelines, watching everything unfold with wide eyes. Suddenly, a dragon dives straight toward him, but before it can reach him, a massive figure steps in. It's Stoik the Vast, the chief of the entire tribe and also Hiccup's father. Stoik is everything a Viking is supposed to be. Huge, strong, fearless, and able to take down dragons with his bare hands. He saves Hiccup and immediately tells him to get back to his real job. Hiccup desperately wants to prove himself, especially to his father, Stoik, who expects his son to follow in his footsteps and become a legendary dragon slayer. Hiccup can barely lift a sword without falling over. He spends his time at the blacksmith shop working under the village forge. Gobber the Belch, a grizzled old warrior who's missing a hand and a leg thanks to dragon encounters over the years. Gobber's workshop is filled with weapons and armors. He's pretty much the only person in the village who doesn't treat Hiccup like a complete disaster waiting to happen. Hiccup stuck polishing weapons and dreaming of proving himself, but he constantly creates inventions to find ways to overcome his physical weaknesses. He has been secretly working on this contraption called a bola launcher, a giant slingshot designed to take down dragons with nets instead of brute force. It's his chance to finally prove himself as a real Viking. But Gobber takes one look at it and says it's not ready. During a dragon raid, a group of Viking teens chosen for the next round of dragon training arrives. They're putting out fires and helping with the defense. One clever, confident, and skilled girl particularly catches Hiccup's attention. Her name is Astrid, and our boy Hiccup has a massive crush on her. She's everything he's not and already acting like a real Viking warrior. Meanwhile, Stoik is out there capturing dragons like it's just another Tuesday. But then something changes. They get attacked by something mysterious, and the Vikings start talking about a night fury. Gobber joins the fight, which means Hiccup is alone in the forge. While everyone else is busy fighting, he grabs his invention and waits. He spots something dark silently gliding through the fire and smoke. It's got to be the Night Fury. Hiccup can't see the dragon clearly, but he fires his contraption into the darkness anyway. He hears this painful screech and sees something crashes into the forest beyond the village. Hiccup can barely believe that his invention might have actually worked, but before he can celebrate, another dragon spots him and attacks. This dragon is basically a living flamethrower with anger management issues. As the dragon chases, Hiccup runs for his life and manages to take cover. Though the dragon finds him and is about to roast him, but Stoic appears out of nowhere just in time and decides to throw hands with the dragon. But this time, Stoic crashes out. The dragon attacks has been devastating. Homes are destroyed, livestock is gone, and winter is approaching. When Hiccup tries to tell his father that he thinks he hit the Night Fury, he blames Hiccup in front of everyone for being reckless and getting in the way. He just sends Hiccup home and tells him to stay out of trouble. As the sun rises, Stoic calls a meeting. He's had enough of these dragon attacks. The plan is to find the dragon's nest and destroy it to end this war once and for all. Before leaving, Stoic has a conversation with Gabber about what to do with Hiccup. Gabber suggests putting the kid in dragon training with the other teenagers. Stoic's not convinced. He thinks his son is too weak and too different from what a Viking should be, but eventually he agrees. Meanwhile, Hiccup sneaks off into the forest. He's going to find that Night Fury and prove himself. He finally finds evidence of a crash, leading deeper into the woods. Hiccup finally finds the Night Fury, completely tangled up in his bola net and unable to move. And now, all he has to do is kill the dragon, and finally earn the respect he's always wanted. Hiccup draws out his knife and approaches slowly, ready to finish the job. But he looks into the dragon's eyes and sees fear in the dragon's eyes instead of aggression. The legendary Night Fury is terrified and helpless. Hiccup realizes he can't kill a creature that's just as scared as he is. Instead of striking, Hiccup cuts the ropes and sets the dragon free. The Night Fury immediately jumps at him, pinning him to the ground and letting out a loud roar that shakes the entire forest. But then the dragon unexpectedly lets him go without harming him and tries to fly away. Hiccup returns home to find Stoics there waiting for him with news. Hiccup is being enrolled in dragon training. Stoic is also leaving the village soon to search for the dragon nest and expects Hiccup to become a proper Viking warrior when he returns. The next day, dragon training begins at the Trial of Flame, and it's basically like a military boot camp. Hiccup joins the other teenage Viking recruits. There's Astrid, who's basically good at everything. Snotlout, who's cocky and thinks he's already the best warrior ever. Get a load of this guy. And Fishlegs, who's nervous about everything but knows tons of dragon facts. And the twins Roughnut and Toughnut, who basically share one brain cell between them. Gabber explains the upcoming dragon trials, and whoever performs best will earn the honor of killing a dragon in front of the entire village. Their first trial begins with Gabber releasing the first opponent, Gronkel, into the arena. This dragon is basically a flying boulder. Gabber teaches the teens to make lots of noise to confuse dragons and throw off their senses. The trial is chaos, as the teens are screaming and running around with shields. The twins get eliminated first, followed by Fishlegs and Snotlout. Now it's just Hiccup and Astrid left standing in the arena. He gets distracted watching her and ends up getting cornered by the dragon, but Gabber has to step in and save him at the last second. After the trial, Gabber warns if you hesitate for even a second, you're dead. Driven by curiosity, Hiccup returns to the forest and eventually finds the Night Fury trapped down in a hidden cove. The dragon's trying desperately to fly out, but it keeps crashing. Hiccup sits at a distance and starts sketching the dragon, and he notices one of the tail fins is completely missing, and without both tail fins, the Night Fury can't control its flight in the air. Hiccup accidentally drops his pencil, catching the dragon's attention. Their eyes meet across the cove. Hiccup starts to see this as a creature who's scared, frustrated, and probably lonely. That evening, Gabber gathers the trainees to talk about their mistakes and brings out this massive book called the Book of Dragons. It's filled with information about every known dragon species. Most of the teens couldn't care less. After the others leave, Hiccup approaches Astrid, trying to impress her by suggesting that maybe they're not as dangerous as people think. She gets angry and tells him that, unlike him, she doesn't have a famous father to rely on, and her goal is to become the next chief by eliminating every dragon, and she's not going to let anyone get in her way. After she left, Hiccup flips through the Book of Dragons, learning about different species. Every single page has the same warning: extremely dangerous. Then he gets to the section about Night Furies, and it's almost completely blank. No drawings, but only that they are faster than lightning, more accurate than a sniper, and they strike from the darkness without warning, and nobody who's encountered one has survived to tell the tale. Meanwhile, far from Burke, Stoic and his crew are sailing through thick fog, searching for the dragon nest. Suddenly, they're ambushed by a swarm of dragons, throwing the entire mission into chaos. Back at the village, it's day 2 of dragon training. They're facing a dragon named Deadly Natter, which is fast, aggressive, and has razor-sharp spines that can shoot like arrows. Gobber tells the teens to look for the dragon's blind spot directly in front of its nose. Hiccup's struggling more than ever. The other kids are starting to get the hang of things, especially Astrid, who's quickly proving herself to be the most skilled fighter in the group. The Natter charges, and once again, Hiccup gets into trouble. Astrid notices and quickly saves him, and starts fighting the dragon, eventually managing to scare it off and lock it up. Then she scolds the group with frustration to start taking the training seriously. That afternoon, Hiccup decides to visit the Night Fury again. This time, he brings something with him as a peace offering, a fresh fish. The dragon is suspicious at first, but when Hiccup throws away his knife, the dragon cautiously accepts the fish and swallows it whole. But then Night Fury slowly approaches Hiccup and pins him against a rock, and the Night Fury regurgitates half the fish and spits it at Hiccup. Hiccup, thinking this might be some dragon custom, reluctantly decides to eat it. Yak! The Night Fury seems amused by this, starts mimicking Hiccup's expressions, and Hiccup notices the dragon's teeth are retractable. He decides to call him Toothless because of this feature. Toothless walks away from Hiccup to take a nap because of his bothering. As evening falls, Toothless wakes up to find Hiccup drawing in the dirt with a stick. Toothless carefully observes the Hiccup's drawing and recognizes it's him. The dragon also grabs a branch and starts drawing in the sand too, trying to draw what looks nothing like Hiccup. Then, very carefully, Hiccup approaches and raises his hand, trying to touch Toothless, and Toothless gently places his head against Hiccup's hand. That night, Gobber tells the trainees the best way to defeat a dragon is to go for its tail or wings. A grounded dragon is a dead dragon. This gives Hiccup an idea that maybe Hiccup can build Toothless a replacement. He spends the night designing and crafting a mechanical tail fin for Toothless that might actually work. The next morning, Hiccup returns to the hidden cove and brings breakfast for Toothless, a variety of fish to choose from. But when Toothless notices an eel among them, he freaks out. Hiccup realizes that dragons hate eels. While Toothless is distracted, Hiccup carefully attaches the new tail fin to Toothless. In a moment of realization, Toothless tries to fly away without even looking back and successfully takes flight for the first time. However, the tail fin isn't perfect yet, and Toothless is unable to operate it all on his own. And the first test flight successfully fails. It's day 3 of dragon training, bringing the dragon named Hideous Sippleback, a 2-headed dragon. One head breathes gas, the other lights it on fire. The trick is to throw water at the head that ignites fire, while not getting blown up. They all messes up as usual, and instead of fighting the dragon traditionally, Hiccup uses an eel to scare the dragon away back into its cage, and locks it up with the eel. The other teens are confused how his weak awe did this. Over the next few days, Hiccup continues visiting Toothless and learning about dragon behavior. He continuously tries to build better gear for Toothless, like a saddle, and upgrades them to a complex system of pedals and controls that help Toothless maintain balance and direction in flights. The mechanical tail fin requires constant adjustment from Hiccup, which means they have to work together perfectly to stay airborne. During one flight, they crash land in a meadow full of dandelions. Toothless sneezes when the pollen gets in his nose, giving Hiccup another idea for dragon training. In the next trial, while the other teens struggle against a Gronkle, Hiccup uses dandelion pollen to make it sneeze and become docile, which helps him win the round again. Hiccup also discovers that scratching a certain spot behind Toothless' ears makes the dragon fall asleep instantly. And when they face the deadly Natter again, Hiccup uses this knowledge to calm it down instead of fighting it. taking another W. The other teens start admiring Hiccup. He goes from being the village disaster to being hailed as a prodigy. But Astrid knows he's onto something, but she can't figure out what. Meanwhile, Stoik returns to the village from his failed expedition to find the dragon nest. Gabber tries to cheer him up by talking about Hiccup's incredible progress in dragon training. The whole village is talking about how naturally gifted the boy is. That night, Stoik visits Hiccup at the forge. For the first time in years, he is genuinely proud and gifts Hiccup a helmet, which is made from half of his mother's breastplate, and guess where the other half is? It is gifted as a symbol of acceptance. Hiccup is touched, but also conflicted. The final day of dragon training arrives. It's Hiccup and Astrid versus a Gronkle in front of the entire village. But before Astrid could do anything, the dragon was taken out by Hiccup. It's time to decide who is the champion, and to everyone's shock, Hiccup is declared the winner and the top dragon slayer, which means he'll have to kill a dragon in front of the entire village. While his father and the village celebrate, Hiccup feels miserable, so he makes a decision to leave Berk with Toothless and never come back. But Astrid has been following him and tracks him to the cove and finally discovers Toothless. She immediately draws her weapon. Astrid's first instinct is to attack, but Hiccup stops her and calms both of them down. Astrid runs to snitch the whole village, but Hiccup and Toothless intercept her. They carry her up to a mountaintop and pleads her to give Toothless a chance to prove that he isn't dangerous. She reluctantly agrees, but Toothless, annoyed and unsatisfied, takes off and initially tries to scare her by flying as wildly as possible until she apologizes. But when she does, Toothless gentles and takes them on the most beautiful flight above the clouds. But suddenly, Toothless takes off the flight path, and they notice a massive group of dragons flying past them carrying food, all heading in the same direction. Toothless is drawn to follow them, carrying Hiccup and Astrid to a shocking discovery. They find an island, the Dragon Nest. It's a volcanic island with a massive pit in the center. They watch as dragons drop stolen livestock into the abyss. Then something terrifying emerges from the depths. A colossal dragon. It devours one of the smaller dragons that didn't bring enough food. It is clear to them now that the dragons aren't raiding Berk because they're evil. They're being forced to feed their alpha. The dragons are slaves, not conquerors. Astrid wants to tell Stoik immediately, but Hiccup stops her. If they reveal the truth, Toothless will be in danger. Astrid agrees and decides they need to figure out another way. The next morning arrives, with the long-awaited dragon-killing ceremony. The entire village gathers to watch Hiccup face a monstrous nightmare. Hiccup enters the arena and waits as the dragon is released. Instead of attacking, the monstrous nightmare tries to escape from the arena. But when it sees Hiccup, it approaches cautiously. Hiccup drops all his weapons and tries to show the village that dragons don't have to be enemies. But Stoik, watching in disbelief, orders Gabber to stop the fight. This sudden interference startles the nightmare, causing it to panic and attack. Toothless hears the commotion from far away and tries to break free from the cove to save him. Just as the nightmare is about to strike Hiccup, Toothless bursts into the arena and fights Monstrous Nightmare to save Hiccup. But now the panicked Vikings storm into the arena to attack the Night Fury. Stoik, refusing to duck the fade, confronts Toothless directly. The dragon could easily kill the chief, but when Hiccup begs him to stop, Toothless allows himself to be captured. In the aftermath, Hiccup pleads with his father to release Toothless. Stoik starts to crash out, reminding Hiccup that dragons killed his mother and hundreds of other Vikings. But Hiccup accidentally reveals that the dragons have a nest with a tyrant who forces them to bring food and admits that he only got there with Toothless' help. Stoik makes a decision to take Toothless and chain him up to a ship and use him to find the nest. Later, Astrid finds Hiccup consumed with guilt, and she reminds him that showing mercy to a dragon is a sign of bravery. Meanwhile, Stoik and the Viking fleet sail into the fog with Toothless chained to the lead ship. Back in the village, Hiccup turns to his fellow trainees for help. Since all the ships are gone, Hiccup suggests they ride the very dragons they were trained to kill. The teens approach the caged dragons with respect instead of weapons. On the island, Stoic and his fleet arrive at the nest land and declare war against the dragons, only to find all the dragons fleeing out of the nest in terror. Suddenly, the ground shakes with a deafening roar. The massive dragon tyrant called the Red Death emerges from the mountain. This fat ass is bigger than a warship, covered in scales like armor, and it immediately starts destroying the Viking fleet. The Red Death unleashes torrents of fire, burning the Viking ships and trapping the warriors. Stoic immediately orders everyone to retreat. Just when all hope seems lost, Hiccup and the teens arrive on their dragons. Astrid quickly organizes their attack plan. Fishlegs and Snotlout are to find the Red Death's blind spots and create distractions. The twins are supposed to rage bait it, while Astrid drops Hiccup to rescue Toothless from the sinking ship. But Fishlegs makes a terrifying discovery. The Red Death has no blind spot, and it can see everything. In the chaos, the ship that is carrying Hiccup and Toothless gets knocked into the water. Hiccup tries to free Toothless, but he's pulled back to the surface. That's when Stoic dives into the water and frees the Night Fury himself, finally understanding what his son has been trying to tell him. As Hiccup reaches Toothless, Stoic stops him and admits how wrong he's been and that he's proud of Hiccup. It's the moment Hiccup has been waiting for his entire life. Now it's just Hiccup and Toothless against the Red Death tyrant. They rise high into the sky, using their speed and teamwork, managing to lure the massive dragon into flying after them to the clouds, removing the ability to spot them. Toothless charges up and manages to damage the massive dragon's wings back to back. During the chase, Toothless' artificial tail fin catches fire. With their flight controls failing, Hiccup has one final plan. They dive straight down so fast towards the island, and when the Red Death opens its mouth, Toothless unleashes his most powerful blast directly into her throat. The explosion burns the Red Death from the inside, causing it to crash and hit the face straight into the mountainside of the island, and then explodes. But in the explosion, the hit from the Red Death's tail left Hiccup knocked unconscious, and he falls toward the flames below during the crash. Toothless dives after him to save him. When the smoke clears, everyone gathers around Toothless, who lies motionless on the ground. Stoic begins to mourn, thinking he's lost his son. But slowly, Toothless opens his wings, revealing Hiccup is safe in his arms, alive but unconscious, and Stoic apologizes for everything and thanks Toothless. Days later, Hiccup wakes up in his own bed with Toothless lying beside him. He thinks this is some kind of sick joke, and as he tries to get up, he realizes he's lost his left leg in the explosion. But Toothless gently nudges him, offering support and comfort. When Hiccup opens his door, he sees something crazy. The dragons are flying freely through the skies of Berk, living peacefully alongside the Vikings, and the entire island has been transformed. Stoic joins him with a smile, then Gobber arrives with a special gift. A new prosthetic tail fin for Toothless, designed to work with Hiccup's new prosthetic leg. They're both different now, both changed by their journey. As the story ends, Hiccup and Toothless take to the skies together, leading a new generation of dragon riders who have conquered fear and understanding has defeated the cycle of hatred. This story shows how a skinny, clumsy kid who couldn't even hold a weapon properly ended up changing his entire world forever. I mean, forget cars and bikes. Imagine having a dragon as your ride. So, what do you think about this movie? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe for us to make more peak recaps for you. Thanks for watching. See you next time.